Hello, Anthem fans, and welcome to Freelancer Radio, your home for all things Anthem. This is episode number 10, the big one. I'm your host, KJ. Let's check in with the rest of the guys. Today we have Goose.
Secrets.
And Andrew.
What's up, peoples?
Justin.
Woo!
And Marlon.
The night after the revelations. Hey, guys.
The night after the revelations. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, we've got a pretty interesting show tonight. We're talking a little bit of patch notes, a little bit of content, a little bit of live stream. We're going to go over some other things as we get through this.
I'll tell the listeners that our show is more interesting than that live stream.
That's for sure, man. We should have more listeners than the live stream. Wow, that is so true. Oh my gosh. All right, Goose.
No comments on that. Wow.
Why don't you kick us off with some patch notes, Goose?
Yeah, so patch 1.10 came out. It's got a couple of new features. Most important among them was the Sunken Cell Stronghold. Which actually released, the patch actually released before the live stream, which I found to be a little odd. It added the ability to select contracts from the start of the expedition screen rather than going to the individual contract boards in Fort Tarsus or in the launch bay. So that expedites gameplay much better, which I like. I haven't tested it out myself, but we'll get into that later. Added the ability to launch a new mission from the end of an expedition screen without having to return to Fort Tarsus. So again, they're keeping with the theme of removing less friction, which is great. And added the ability to access the forge during missions, stronghold, and free play. You can now change your gear without having to return to Fort Tarsus or the launch base. So again, more removing of friction, more giving the players more what they want to do in terms of switching up their loadout. Although unfortunately, you still can't see what drops you've acquired until the end of the mission, and you can't. And because of that, you can't switch into that new gear until you've completed said mission. But hopefully, they'll be working to fix that. A couple of general notes. There's gameplay balance adjustments for all four javelins for their masterwork gear. There's also reworking of status effects and combos. There's bug fixes. For example, this is I think the second or third time they've been working on this in terms of the Titan. So they fixed an additional issue where the Titan fireball projectile attack was hitting players when they successfully dodged or evaded. I remember a couple weeks back playing, and that was being very, very annoying. They also fixed an issue where the Titan would not always use all of its available attacks, so they may or may not be a little more powerful. What else do they have? Weapons, text descriptions. They fixed issues within Fort Tarsus itself.
Yeah, and there's a lot of little things that they
yeah. It is
nitpicked here and there. There's a lot of quality of life stuff, but I think the main ones that we're talking about when it comes down to this is the stronghold, the fact that you can access the forge just about anywhere now. I mean, that's pretty prime. I know that was a big sticking point for Andrew at some point. I can't look at my gear, I can't switch my gear. So I mean, I think those are good quality of life. Let's talk about some content delays. I mean,
so yeah, that's one of the fun. I think that's one of the things that actually made me check out on the live stream. Like I was watching the live stream a little bit. And I checked out after 15 minutes because I think there was a gal from Edmonton, Jen Cherry or something, and then there was a guy called Ben Scott who was the lead designer for all the strongholds, and then there was Jesse who's Dakoraz or Darokaz. I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Yeah, he's the community manager.
Yeah, they had the community manager, And before the stream went up, the development team put out an update on Reddit saying how their Act 1 calendar, some features were going to be delayed. Chief among them, the mastery system, guilds, the second phase of the legendary missions, the weekly stronghold challenge, the leaderboards, free play events, and then most importantly, and probably detrimental to the whole game, was the delay of the cataclysms. They put that out before the live stream, and that's good. That's good.
I'm gonna take the hit on this one because this is all my fault. I mentioned in Twitter weeks and weeks and weeks ago that I think that the community would be okay with some of the content being delayed if it was done correctly, and a lot of people like that and made mention of it, and that's one of the only things that the developers have actually hit me back up on. And
so there you have it.
So yeah, it's my fault. I'm taking one for the team here, guys.
You know what, KJ? You're off the show.
That's it. Yep.
He's being excommunicated.
Yeah. No, actually, I did. No, for real, I did mention that. It was one of my most liked tweets that people were just like, hey, they just want the game fixed. But one of the things that I had mentioned in that was the loot actually being fixed, which has still not happened, and I think is a prime reason that people have. There's been an exodus from the game.
They checked
itself.
out, okay? Just like you guys did with the live stream, they have checked out, okay?
Yeah.
I always try to play devil's advocate. It's just who I am, and I get why they did it. I think it was, I forgot, man. I feel so stupid, but who's the creator of Mario? Shigeru Miyamoto. God, the gaming gods would be ashamed of me.
No. She strike you down.
Shigeru Miyamoto always says like a delayed game. I'm going to butcher his quote, but he said something along the lines of like something delayed, can be good, but like a bad game that comes out will always be bad, right? So I get why they're doing it. They don't want any more bad press, and they'd rather get bad press up front, whereas, they'll get good press if they release it, but then they'll continually get bad press and get raked over the coals if the Cataclysm comes out and it falls, under expectations. So I applaud them for being honest with themselves and saying, hey, listen, we can't deliver right now. We're going to hold it back. We're going to work on it. And when it's ready, it's ready. But I just think the overall state of the game really needed a kind of bump that I think the Cataclysm would provide. So that's why I think a lot of people in the community are disappointed.
Yeah, well, it's the fact that right now we don't have an end game, so to speak. I mean, I was chatting with the guys earlier about this, and at the end of the day, I'm still playing just about every day, but I go in, there's an Elysium key that I'm concentrated on getting. I go ahead, I go through the motions of whatever I need to do that day to get the Elysium key. I go do my stronghold, knock that out, and that's pretty much it. If there's somebody else online, that there's somebody to play with, that I can run around free play or maybe do a mission with or something else, I'll do it. I'm excited to do it. And I think it's a lot of fun because I think that this game actually is more fun when you're playing in a group than when you're playing by yourself. Even though
I have a question.
Yeah.
This is a little bit off topic, but not really. The Elysium keys, once you get them, can you stack them?
Yes.
Okay, so theoretically, you could hold on to them until like something better or bigger is added to the loot table, and then you can try to pay it off that way.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is that the loot table is fixed?
To the key itself?
No, it's not fixed to the key itself. But if you look, there's a fixed loot pool, right, for Elysium caches, and if you go into your, I don't know if you want to call it the Cortex or whatever. If you go in there and you look at your challenges, right, there's actually a challenge that's for Elysium chests. Okay. And if you look at that, there is literally a list of everything that could possibly be an Elysium chest.
Gotcha.
And it then says at the bottom, you've opened X out of the total number. I don't remember what the total number is anymore, but it's like, let's just say it's 100. It's not, it's more than 100. I think it's 160 something, but it says you've opened 85 out of this, out of 160. So those keys are fixed to that grouping. So I don't think that there's going to be, and there's only a certain amount of days that you can open up these Elysium chests too.
So the keys don't expire, but the chests are gated in terms of when you can open them.
Yeah, the keys don't expire within the limit of the event. Right?
Okay.
So if the event has another 30 days, the keys are still good for 30 days. So if I want to hold on to, let's just say you're able to get one key per day. So if I want to run 10 days in a row and get 10 keys, and then I want to go in there and I want to run 3 strongholds, I could open all 4 chests on the first stronghold, all 4 chests on the second stronghold, and 2 chests on the third stronghold, and get all 10 of my items.
Gotcha.
So in that way that they don't expire. But I'm assuming, nobody's actually made any mention of this from BioWare, but I'm assuming that the keys themselves will expire with the event that is listed. So I think, if I remember correctly, yesterday there was like 32 more days left. So by the time this show airs, it's probably like 30 days worth of Elysium chests still going on. But see, that's the thing is that I'm a little worried about is that's the only thing that's keeping me coming back every day right now to the game is getting another one of those open. There's no progression system. And that's what worries me a little bit with it is that I'm looking for that progression. There's always been like in games like Destiny, and Andrew and I were talking about this earlier. In games like Destiny, there's always been like a little bit of a lull at certain times, but then Destiny does some sort of marketing something, right? Andrew,
a seasonal event, if you will, or something.
Yeah, well, Andrew brought up their Vidocs, Here we are, we got a live stream that came on, and honestly, I thought it was pretty worthless. They didn't really want to answer questions. They brought on 2 additional people that I would consider more or less a distraction. They brought up a game level builder guy, which is great. I was trying to ask questions to the game level guy, but nobody was answering my questions that I was asking.
He looked so thrilled, Ben Scott did.
Yeah, he did. He looked over exuberant. But maybe that's just his personality. But the thing is, it's like those people were there as a distraction. It wasn't one of the execs. It wasn't Ben Irvo. It wasn't Mark Dara. It wasn't one of those guys. Okay, because they don't want to have to answer questions in regards to loot and all the things that the players actually want to know. Right. So they brought on these other 2 people hoping that they would be somewhat of a distraction so that you would ask questions about other things because they flat out said it. They're like, oh, here's the patch notes. Well, we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that. How many times did Jesse say before I checked out? Because as soon as he started saying this, I checked out of the live stream.
Yeah, okay. That's what I did. I'll be honest. I really found that off-putting. Like it was basically like, hey, we're just doing this. We're basically like the human shields. Don't ask us anything. We're just going to focus on that. And I don't know. I didn't like it. And there was this one developer, the girl Jen, I think.
Jen Cherivari or something like that.
Yeah, Cherivari. Yeah, I said Sherry. Sorry, Jen. Yeah. Cherivari. Yeah. She was talking about like one of her favorite builds, and she couldn't like name it. And I'm like, man, you're like a dev. Like you should know this off the top of your head. But maybe I'm overthinking it. I was like, what are these?
Well, no, unfortunately. I hate to say this, but that's been a consistent problem is that in all of these live streams, like nobody knows what they're talking about. And I know I forget stuff all the time. Like I'll never forget when you wouldn't let me live it down when I forgot the girl's name in the game that I can't remember her name.
Tassin.
All right. I'm so bad at names, but anyway, I can't remember this. I couldn't remember this girl's name, and then you're like giving me a hard time about it like the next day. But
I was literally screaming on the bus, "It's Tassin!"
But
Everyone
the
was looking at him like,
developers don't know those people's names, and they don't know the names of the different things in the game, and on a regular basis. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. My boy Cameron Dayton knows it. I know that because I sit there and I've had conversations with him on Twitter, and he always has good info.
Well, to push back, you'd be surprised at how many people within the community would know more about the game than some of the developers would do. I mean, for example, I know a lot of fans of Dark Souls and Destiny that know more about the lore, know more about the stuff about the game than some of the developers. And they call them out on them, They really do call them out. Hey, listen, you are changing the lore. You are changing how the story goes. And you're basically doing small, recons. I don't like that. We don't like that. So keep your story straight. And let me tell you, they're not.
By the way, folks, they are not doing reconnaissance. He meant retconning.
Retcon, yeah. Recon, yeah. I'm sorry, retcon.
That's how they say it in Honduras. So.
Retcon, sorry. I was like going to the back of my head going, what was the word? No, but yeah, the community will call you out if you don't know your stuff. And Gustavo will be the first one to do it. If you don't know your stuff, he will call you out on it. Just need to do it right now. But yeah, I'll call but the thing for me, when I was watching the stream, I think he mentioned it about 6-7 times about look at the patch notes. We're not going to be discussing any of those questions here. Just look at the patch notes. For me, my biggest issue was, why couldn't you do this last week when the whole Austin fiber wire got cut down? Like if you were just gonna say, look at the patch notes, then you should have just put the patch notes into the EA servers or whatever have you. It's.
I kind of feel bad for Bioware. I think it's one of those things where like just bad things keep happening to them, right? It's like when you have like that bad luck. Like, some people don't believe that, but I do. Like you just have like that bad luck and you have like that dark cloud hanging over you. I think it was compounded because of the fact that, hey, they had to delay it because of the internet thing, which was out of their control, right? They can't control that. So that sort of puts like a greater expectation for them to deliver, right? And then they didn't. And then just the way they went about the live stream. And actually, I want to switch gears a little bit, staying within the live stream. And actually, I'm going to kick this to Justin and ask him and then hopefully bring Andrew into this. But one of the things that I was expecting, and maybe I shouldn't have, was, hey, what is going to be their reaction after the Shry arc? Or this was their first public-facing appearance since that expose dropped. And there was absolutely no mention of it or any sort of what I would say humility. Not that Bioware has to show that, but I would have liked that for them to say, hey, this happened. We acknowledge that this is a thing. We're working on it. Blah blah. There was really none of that. What do you think, Justin?
I'm not sure. What do you think, Andrew?
I don't know. I'm not sure if they needed to address it inside the live stream. I feel like they're I forgot the guy's name, but he addressed it on Twitter, I believe. They're aware of the problems, they're working on it, type stuff. So I'm not sure that was necessarily something they needed to bring up inside this week live stream. But kind of touching up on what Marlon said, if they were just going to show gameplay and goof around, they could have just recorded that last week and put it up once their internet was fixed. I mean, there's no excuse for the crap show of a live stream they had.
Well, I mean, you had brought it up earlier when we were talking before the show, Andrew, and I think, Destiny does such a great job with marketing and these Vidocs that they do ahead of time. It really would have been a smarter idea to go ahead and do some Vidocs.
Yeah.
Forget the live stream.
Yeah, I mean, I was asking you guys earlier pretty much. I was like, do you guys have any hype left for this game? And right now, no. I mean, most people don't right now because there's not much to do. Yes, they're making quality of life improvements. That's great, but there's nothing that like exciting me about the game anymore. Even the new stronghold. It's great. You got a new stronghold, but that's not enough right now at this
like
time.
4 weeks ago.
And even if they would have like even advertised that maybe a little better, maybe throw like a 30-second trailer or something on that to kind of get people hyped up for it. I mean, I don't know. They got to do something to try to get people excited for this game again. And delaying stuff, yeah, it hurts. So I'm hoping that whenever they do show the Cataclysm and these some of these new events are coming out, that they advertise them a little better to try to engage people or get people excited again for the game.
Well, I want to call a spade on this stronghold. Okay, visually, this thing is beautiful. Okay, which is the same throughout the rest of this game. You have visually, the game is beautiful, but one of the things that I have noticed, right, is there's a couple puzzles in this one where there really wasn't puzzles in the other one. But you know what? The thing that bothered me about the puzzle, it was recycled content.
It was the same exact puzzle from the campaign.
From the one in the campaign. So, and they even mentioned that in the live stream, and I'm like, oh, why'd you guys even if it's true, like, why bring that up? Right?
Kills the immersion, It makes you feel like, okay, you're not doing something that is organic, that you're not building something that is a dungeon-like content that makes you like, it is getting parts from other parts of the campaign, and it's, assimilating it into this new dungeon. The fact that you come out and say it on the live stream that you are recycling the same content kills the vibe. It makes you go, oh. It doesn't make you go, oh man, they're really showing this world has, rules and checks. No, it just shows that you guys are lazy and you couldn't find something better to do, so you put an old thing that was already created. And what? Sorry, viewers.
Continue speaking, please.
No, Marlon's being distracted by
two knuckleheads wearing sunglasses.
Yeah, it's fun. It's all right though.
But yeah, I mean, to talk about a little bit of Gustavo, we're talking about the live stream thing. I mean, I get it. It's issues that they were not foreseen, that they were not expecting to be dealing with this type of thing at this moment, and that is the reason why the delays happen. It kills. Well, for example, let me give you what happened to me last night. I was playing with KJ Anthem again, and we were doing some of the missions. After I completed some of the missions that I was dealing with, I felt like, okay, this game is finally open up. I finally can enjoy some of it and just have some fun. But they just did a horrible job when it comes to a mission, the way that the missions played out, Because I remember when I first started playing Anthem, we were doing a mission that was the end of General Fort Tarsus, and I didn't know that, And I was not level for that. I was having a really bad time, and I was just not enjoying it. And then a couple of months pass by. I'm actually finally getting organically there, and I'm going, oh, okay. Why is that in the as a game design? Why is a low-level player allowed to play a high-level mission without any checks or balances, Just because
that was an old bug, though. So, I mean, that is something that they fixed since then.
I know that they fixed, but it's something that you look back on and you go, huh. Like, it just makes you go, like, why was it there in the first place? Yeah, they fixed it, and they did a lot of, quality of life changes. But I think you guys said it best. If it's something that is pretty, and you just keep tweaking on it, but it's shallow, and it doesn't have a lot of depth to it, there's only so much that you can go back and see it. It's like me when I go to a museum and I see, Rembrandt for the 18th time, After one point, okay, I already see this. What's new about it, Like, there's at one point do you decide, I'm done with it?
Yeah, and so far as the rest of the Stronghold goes, I mean, like I said, it's beautiful. It's a good ride. It's worth doing. I mean, it's not like it's a bad, it's bad content. It's not. I'm hoping that we find like some secrets along the way or whatever. But once again, I was running with a crew that just wanted to run through everything and not really kind of take a look. So I wasn't even really able to get any photos, switch over to photo mode, take some pictures, anything along the way. But it really is, it's gorgeous so far in the look. But then we get to the final boss, and it's a Fury. It's a really big Fury.
It's big. It's real big.
It's fiery.
The movement and the attack from the Fury is very similar to it in some ways to a Titan. It is a little bit more mobile than a Titan. It's kind of like it's almost as if they took a Titan and the Monitor and they mashed them together. And
that's common. To be fair, that's common in video game development, right? You reuse assets just to be more efficient. And in light of the news that came out a couple of weeks ago, it makes sense for them to totally do that. Not that I'm defending them.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're trying to push out content as quickly as they can, and I think this was the result of it. One of the leaks that came out earlier this week showed that there's going to be 9 strongholds in total, that they've already got information out there on. This makes 4, so they're saying that there's most likely 5 more that are going to come out.
They're probably getting delayed.
Everything's delayed. Content, all the content is delayed at this point. But then on top of it, we've got they showed 5 new armor sets, 2 melee weapons, and some like vinyl wraps. Was anybody else able to check out any of that stuff? I thought that some of the armor sets were pretty cool. The fact
Storm
that
armor looks bad ass, and as a Storm main, that is like what I like. Like I would love to have those type of armors more and more and more. The Regal one just looks beautiful. Now, can I get that without paying money? That's my issue. Or can I get it using the elusive Elysium keys that barely drop any armor?
No, the Elysium keys don't drop any armor.
I know.
They don't drop any armor. So
they need some in-game armor drops. That's not, I guess, viable.
I think I kind of feel bad for the listeners a little bit because I think we're going to be repeating ourselves a bit. But maybe if we continually repeat ourselves, we'll have the look that KG had, and they'll listen to his tweet, and they'll actually do something. Because that's the biggest point of contention for me. Like some of the listeners may listen and be like, "Hey, this Goose guy knows nothing about nothing." You're absolutely right. I know nothing about nothing when it comes to the game because I just haven't been keeping up with it, and I think it serves as a good foil for me to ask questions with the guys on the show and learn about what's going on with the entire game. So serve as a sort of like a proxy for some of the listeners who may be coming into the game brand new. But that's my biggest point of contention right now because I hear you guys talking about all this awesome loot that's coming out, but there isn't a way for me to earn it other than having to grind and buying it through a vendor, as opposed to me doing a sort of mission or a stronghold or some activity with my friends that allows me to earn it. I think the bigger payoff would be, at least for me, would be earning it that way. Just the jubilation of, doing a stronghold, not unlike Destiny. And at the end of the stronghold, knowing, hey, this is the loot table and I have a chance to get it, right? And if I don't get it, I can do a Logan and say, God darn it, I didn't get it, right? Or I can be real happy and be like, yes, I got this weapon. But that's just not the case in many of these scenarios.
Logan did not say that. Okay, he was more explicit about that, just to say something about it. But I get it. It's. I don't want to play devil's advocate because that's your job, Goose. So I see both sides. I see the fact that the developers are busting their butts trying to get content out. They're trying to, make something out of it. The game, as pretty as it is not in a viable way or a viable state to be able to constantly be put out strongholds after strongholds like a, they're not. It takes time, it takes resources, and the fact that EA and Bioware are not in this position to be like all hands on deck, we're gonna get this thing all together and fix it. No, they're not. They're everybody in the team is having different issues,
But my argument,
basically making the game, though. I mean, that's what they're pretty much doing right now. I mean, they're making it playable pretty much.
They're building the game as we play it.
I'd push back and I'd say that what's there is good enough, right? Because you guys are talking about how they put out one new stronghold since launch, right? And they got 5 more coming, right? So they've already proven they can put out the strongholds. They have put out in the past couple of weeks, they've put out new gear, new armor sets, right? So it's just about making it all work, making a nice little soup and making it all work. How about you say, hey, listen, we're the effort and investment that we make in terms of making new gear, we're gonna make stronghold specific gear. And we're gonna right, and they could do that because the pieces are there. It's just the philosophy of what, right? So the excuse of, hey, they're building the game, I don't think that peters out for this particular scenario where they have the pieces to work with. They just need to put it all together in a way that makes us incentivized to play the game.
I can say they're still not making the game when literally the majority of this whole patch that just came out was quality life improvements to make the game. They're making the game pretty much. Stuff that should have been at launch, and they're now.
I push back on that. I don't agree with that at all. I think to say that they're making the game, I think that's an incorrect statement. I think the game is already made. Quality of life improvements is not making the game, right? The base game has already been made. You can have an argument whether it's good or not. That's an argument that I'd entertain and I'd agree with. But to say that the game is not done, I don't agree with that at all.
I'm talking like let's look at No Man's Sky, for example. Yes, you had a game at the beginning. It wasn't all.
It was
that.
An idea.
It was there, but it's not like a full fleshed out game. Now you look at it, it's a full fleshed out game. Anthem right now is not a full fleshed out game. They're still making the game to where it's going to be that games as a service should be type thing, where people will keep coming back to the game. They're still putting all the pieces together. It's not all there right now.
I grant you that. Yeah,
that's very true. One of the things that I didn't put on our stuff for topics of the week, but something that did come up this week. Actually, it may have even been last week that it actually came up. But BioWare was hiring somebody that had loot experience. They were looking for people that had loot experience to build loot tables. To basically redesign the whole loot system. So, I mean, that it's not that they're not listening. It's just the fact is that the pace that it's able to be accomplished and get out to the player is not at a pace that we would typically want. And honestly, it was like that all through Destiny 1. It was like that all through Destiny 2 for the most part until they started this seasonal thing. And I would still say that even Destiny 2, even on the seasonal thing, I mean, I haven't played it all this past season, but the season before, the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season, I didn't have anything to do in the game.
At least for me, like, not to go back to the Schreier article, but that underpins so much in terms of what's been going on. Like, we can compare it to Destiny. And their philosophy wavered in Destiny 2 and what they wanted to do, and then they reaffirmed it with, hey, we're going to make this a lifestyle game. But from the very beginning, Anthem wasn't that. It wasn't built to support that structure. I think it was easier for Bungie to do that because the game was already set up to do that, right? You had your dailies, your weeklies, your bounties, you had your raids, you had all these things. They just needed to put it in a nice order, right? But it was already there.
Yeah, but this game has the dailies, the weeklies, the bounties. It has all of that as well. It's just there's no incentive for me to go out and do them.
Yeah, exactly. It's not as fleshed out, and the fact that you did your research and found out that they're hiring these loot specialists goes to show that the vision wasn't there from the beginning. Like they just pivoted. Like, hey, oh wow, this is what our game is. Oh, this is the game now, and now we have to build towards that.
I applied for that
Exactly, so
job.
they're still building the game.
You applied
That's
for the
my-
job, Justin?
He just
Yeah.
said that they're building
Look,
towards that. They're
my,
building the game.
No,
think
I think we're arguing semantics. My point is just I think it's incorrect to say that they're building the game when the game is already built.
I want to
terms-
know how
in-
Justin
in terms-
applied for the job. That's why I want to know what did you put in your application, my friend? I mean, what
Greatest
experience
guy
do you
ever.
have?
I played Destiny.
Actually, what
Hired,
you should
hired.
hire.
Hired.
Justin, what you need to put on your resume is this.
Played Destiny,
High
Division
line.
2, World of Warcraft, Skyrim.
Oh God, dude, he needs to put on his resume high light level player from a Destiny game
Yes,
with PvP experience.
I could put.
Nice.
I could apply, and I could put that. What is it? The Wayfinder and a Revenant. Yeah,
And
yeah.
are you? What else are you?
Dredging.
Dredging.
Dredging. Yeah, yep. So I could put that on my.
So on my
Resume.
thing, I was gonna put that if your name is Joe or Lee, you get a higher amount of drops than any other players out there.
The other players.
No.
And aren't-
It's gonna be an Easter egg, you know. He's gonna put it like
You're
a
Logan,
Konami code.
Logan, you get nothing.
So I have a question that's not part of our outline actually that it kind of came to me while we were talking, and amazingly enough, on a side note, I'm amazed that Goose is like engaged in conversation and watching his precious Mets lose at the same time. It's the craziest thing.
I am a genius.
If you watch him right now, he's looking at the TV screen watching baseball and throwing down with us at the same time.
This
I don't
guy
know.
can walk and chew gum at the same
I
time.
haven't ate.
It's
I haven't
absolutely-
ate since Sunday 8 p.m. I'm a
Oh yeah, that's right. He's fasting too. So
Oh wow!
Jeez.
3 things at once.
yeah,
This
right.
guy's on
He's
fire.
an Apple genius, okay?
Oh my gosh!
So my question to you guys is, why is this game still getting so much attention right now? Like, being a game that's, I'm going to say from my perspective, a game that's failing. This live stream was just an absolute disaster. They
A
obviously
total and complete disaster.
Want me to tell you
Hope,
that?
man, it's
Justin?
hope,
Want me
pretty
to
much,
answer
man.
that question?
They're
Because we live-
delaying everything. Like, why is this? And another. I'm a huge Angry Joe fan. He did like 4 or 5 videos on Anthem alone on how terrible it was. Just on that aspect that everyone's still on this game, and a bad game. You know, it's like it not a bad game, but it just delivered poorly, and it's just amazing because you know what? I know we're covering it. We're covering Anthem, and we report on these things. But even like playing, No Man's Sky or Mass Effect Andromeda, those are horrible games as well. I feel like it didn't get as much attention as Anthem did.
I'll tell you why. I know because this is a BioWare product, and it's a live service. It's supposed to be some kind of lifestyle game where people play continually. They've said something where, over and over again, where they're going to continue to support this game, right? So it's everybody that was ever a BioWare fan that is just hoping that they get it together and that they pull this thing and they turn it around. Because honestly, it's got really good bones, man.
It
Right.
does. But where's the point where you cut your losses and you just like, like not destroy the BioWare name, but like, where's the point where you're like, you know what? We tried, like we had to push the Cataclysm back. And that's something I was waiting for, it's like, where do you stop?
The reputation is already tarnished, man. I mean, there's
Oh,
nothing
yeah,
you can do
no.
about that there. But it's not going to happen overnight, man. It's going to be.
Well, of course not.
There's going to be many updates before this thing's to where everybody's satisfied with it.
Oh,
It's not like I said. It's not going to be. We'll be covering this thing for a while to see.
So
I mentioned it earlier this week that I am fully committed myself to this game, okay, for a year. because I believe that this game was pushed out the door a year earlier than it should have been. And that's me personally. That's my personal commitment to the game.
You are strong.
I
am
well,
strong.
but here's the thing: is I'm not expecting it to. I'm not expecting it to be amazing overnight. I'm going to let it flush itself out, and I'll see what happens. But I'm going to give it a year, and I'm going to see what these guys can do. Because honestly, here's the thing, man. There was this kid. He was like 18 years old. He's playing video games, at college, and he got this game, and it was Baldur's Gate, man. And that thing was just like, that just became like a part of him for like a year, 2 years of his life, man. It was just like Baldur's Gate, right? And then from Baldur's Gate, then there was like, from there you had like KOTOR, and you had, Mass Effect, and you had Dragon's Age, and there was all these just like amazing stories and just great dialogue back and forth, and like actual games that you like fully engaged into. Most games, I don't typically walk around to every single character and see what they have to say in a castle, man. But in a traditional BioWare game, I do that because the story really is engaging in it, and it's pretty amazing how everything is so well put together, and everything really has a purpose, and it kind of all lines up and works together so well. Okay, that has not happened here yet, but I am of the belief, okay, because that it's there. The bones are there. They're hiding behind something right now, okay? Because honestly, I had a conversation kind of a little back and forth with several other people on Twitter with Cameron Dayton, the guy who is actually the narrative director for this game. And this dude has a real story. Like, there's something real behind this, man. There's a lot of good stuff, and there's good information in the cortexes. I know you don't take the time to read them, but there is good information in the cortexes. And then on top of that, there's a lot of story that is left to be told in this game. And just in the very few comments back and forth with this guy, there is some really good, cool stuff that's going on that we're not seeing yet.
It's still under the rubble, though. That's the problem.
Two things that I want to say about why the game
Mets are so bad right now.
Yeah, the Mets are doing horrible, but I don't have many things. I don't have many things to say about that. But the two things I want to say regarding why Anthem is still popular, I guess, in the interwebs. So the first thing is that for whatever reason, the internet just is sadistic and just likes to like pick at like whoever's down. Like if somebody's down, they're just gonna keep kicking them for sport and fun, right? I'm guilty of it too. I do it sometimes myself, and I have to catch myself and try not to do those type of things.
He's the leader.
Because it's not, it doesn't really contribute to the conversation unless it does, but usually it doesn't. And then two, Andrew mentioned the game, which I totally agree with him on, and that was No Man's Sky. When No Man's Sky came out, that game just underdelivered like horribly, and the community around it and the toxicity that the developers in the game faced for months was just unbearable. It was on end. It just continued. It was a pile-on. It was the biggest pile-on I've probably ever seen in relation to a game. But they turned it around. The majority of folks who moved past that game, like myself, I'm like, all right, that was my experience. It was a bad experience, and I haven't gone back, right? But the core community who stuck around, they swear by that game today because the developers just buried their heads in the sand and said, hey, listen, we're going to get to work on this, and we're going to fix it. So when Justin brings up the notion of, hey, let's just cut our losses, I would initially agree, but then I say no, because they're at rock bottom right now. BioWare is at rock bottom right now, and there's only one way, and that's up, right? And they have to work hard in order to get there. Go ahead, Marlon.
It's twofold. Number one, I want to iterate this that KJ said. When you complete the tombs in Anthem, that little mission afterwards, because I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't done it, but that mission that you do afterward, it shows the type of quality that they can do when it comes to the storytelling, like that cutscene for me make me want to play the game again, because it's like, oh, now it's getting good, and now there's some linearity, there's some there's something that I'm striving towards to. Because half of the time that you're playing this game, you're just going, oh, okay, I'm just your typical freelancer, just helping everybody out, I'm your little hero. But there's no, like, oh, I need to do this. I'm working my butt for this goal, You never had that at the beginning of the game. It is only after you complete the tomb section that you realize, okay, now I know what I'm doing. Now I know why I'm doing all this for. To answer Justin's question about why everybody keeps piling on Anthem, one, it's money. YouTubers like piling on bad games. If they can get more press and more exposure to their channels based on how bad a game is doing, they will capitalize on it and they will make sure to milk it. Okay?
Yeah, upper echelon games, man. This is like one of his things where he just loves to just beat the tar out of a dead horse on Anthem.
It sounds like a loser called Angry Joe. Sounds like a big loser called Angry Joe.
When you
like
create
Angry
5, 6, maybe 10 different videos on a specific topic,
Fake news.
on one game because you realize, oh, the viewers really want to know about this, let me milk it out as much as I can. They will do that. It happened with No Man's Sky. It happened with Destiny 2. It happened with The Division. It happened with Diablo 3. It happened with Monster Hunter. It happened with Security.
All right.
There's a lot of games,
idea.
Marlon, we know.
It's
We all love Marlon.
I know. But
Gotta
thing
rein
is
him in
this, though.
sometimes.
I know. But the thing is this, like you realize that once you have bad press on a video game, people are gonna latch onto it and never let go. Even if the game fixes itself, even if the game becomes a much better version of the game that it started out, the fact that it had that initial bad taste in some people's mouths will never stop lingering to them. And I know people that really hate No Man's Sky, and I'm like, listen, the game is completely different from when it first started. Like, no, but they hurt me. They make me feel bad about it, so I'm gonna keep on them. Okay, well there goes that one.
Nice.
I'll give you a quick answer, Justin. Think about this, man. When we were playing at the end of Destiny. Actually, it wasn't the end of Destiny 1. It was Destiny 2, right? And you actually had kind of fallen off the wagon there for a little while, and Forsaken came out. And I told you, dude, you need to come back and play this game. And you jumped back in there. And we tried to do the same thing with Goose, and everybody else jumped back in except for Goose.
Alexa, tell Xbox to turn off.
What? The Mets
Somebody's
are
a
that
little
bad, huh? Poor Goose.
That was beautiful. I think we should change the name of the
Name of
episode.
the
The Mets
Xbox turn off.
have gone off the deep end, something like that.
Dude.
But that's what I think it is that people have there is one group that has a hope that this game is going to turn into something more BioWare. And then there's another group that has every intention to just beat the tar out of it and get everything that they can get out of the fact that they're beating the tar out of it. Because here's the thing is, everybody's looking for likes, man. At the end of the day, it's a social media world now. I don't know if you ever saw that Black Mirror show. Oh man, they do this one show, and what it is like everything in the whole world revolves around likes. And so, this woman, she goes out and everything she's doing is she's doing something, and then somebody will rate her, and then she'll rate that person, and she's looking for likes and whatever else. And it just kind of shows you the downfall of a society that does nothing but look for likes. But, even those people that are being completely negative, they're looking for those likes, man. They're looking for people that agree with them or want to just have something else to latch onto. And they want to, they want somebody to press that little heart button or whatever, the thumbs up button on them and like what they have to say. So they say something that they think is going to, grab people's attention. And, I think that's just part of the world we're living in right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, just bring up another topic that kind of has a little bit to do with what we were talking about. We talked a little bit about the leaks and the new armor sets and the fact that there's some melee weapons we didn't chat about, but there is the possibility there was some leaked, like a leaked mace and a leaked sword that could be possibly coming out too. But another thing that they showed were like some really heavily detailed vinyls. And they're calling them wraps. They actually released one in Prospero. Prospero's featured store this week.
Man, I could so have a wrap right now, like a tuna burrito wrap.
Tuna burrito wrap. That sounds really gross, to be honest with you. I don't know
So
about
good.
tuna burritos. Anyway, so they're calling them wraps. They're basically a vinyl, but they're a very highly detailed vinyl that encompasses a good portion of the armor. And there's 61,000 coins in the store. So Marlon, with all 71,000 of your coins that you have in this game, you could buy one. So there's that.
Highway robbery.
But here's the question. So I released something out into the Twitterverse earlier this week, and I said, 61,000 for a vinyl is a little much for my opinion. But then somebody hit me back on that, and it made me think a little bit. They said, well, yeah, but the vinyl I can use on all 4 of the javelins with any armor set. If I get an armor set, I can only use it with 1 javelin, which the armor set's also 61,000, right? If I buy an armor set, I can only use that armor set with 1 javelin, and I may only use a couple pieces from that armor set, which is true. I mean, I have yet to like a single one of the helmets from the Rangers armor sets, with the exception of the original helmet. So I don't ever use it on anything, unless there was some reason, like if I was trying to create something that looked like a particular character and that helmet better suited that, But I mean, all of the other things, every time I buy an armor set, I buy it because I like 1 or 2 pieces from it. I don't typically like the whole thing. I do think that the latest Ranger set that's coming out, I think I'm going to be all over that because I do like that whole thing. But what do you guys think? I mean, I'm going to kick it off to Justin first. But what do you think, man? Vinyls or armor sets? Well, what's
So I think, the vinyls is a good idea. I still think it's a little pricey for my taste, even though it's for all 4 javelins. I think it's a good, step in the right direction. But I would rather just go with armor sets, to be honest, because I've earned that gear for that specific set. Because what do I care what it looks like on my Colossus? I don't play my Colossus. I don't play the Interceptor. I just play Ranger and Storm, mostly Rangers. So that I feel that's kind of in my perspective, it's kind of a waste. So it's a good step, I think, but I don't know. I wouldn't spend that much on a vinyl.
I have a feeling that it's a lot easier for them to produce the vinyls than it is for them to produce the armor sets.
That's probably true. It probably is very true.
I mean, but if you look at like the what's it called, the material types, how much do those cost?
Depends on the material, but they'll be typically between 12,000 coin and 5,000 coin.
And those are usable on all characters, correct?
Correct.
So why would this vinyl be that much more than one of these?
Because it looks that much cooler. I bet you that's all it is.
Yeah,
It
no,
kinda
that's a visual.
It sort of makes you feel like I feel like it's kind of punishing, really.
It should. Okay, I could maybe a little more expensive, but not necessarily 61K. I mean,
I think it would be better if there were more opportunity to grab things in game. Like that's the one thing that I'm not enjoying about Anthem at all, is the fact that in order for me to really deck out my character, I got to pay more money into it when I don't feel like I've got my money out of it with what I currently am getting from them. So I almost feel like there should be an influx of, like, because the Elysium caches, right? They put all these vinyls in there and whatever, but then they they flushed in a bunch of materials that I never use. I always seem to get a bunch of materials. I don't really get too many of the vinyls. I've got a good number of them, but it took me a lot of work to get to those vinyls, and it's a lot harder than it should be. If I'm opening 4 chests and 3 of them are building materials that at this point, I don't really do crafting, so there's no use for them for me, then that's aggravating. If there was more vinyls that were free in the regular loot pools, I think you should be able to kill a wyvern or a grabbit or a titan or whatever else, and get a vinyl from those. That's just my opinion. I think that you should be able to get them out in open world. What are you going to say, Marlon?
I'll tell you why I call it highway robbery. I have spent $90 on this game. I don't think I have gotten $10 out of the whole experience.
Lee would just say it's called the highway robbery because it's a robbery on a highway.
A highway. That's right.
So I feel like I have not gotten not even a tenth of my money's worth, and you expect me to give you more money? No. With Bungie, with Destiny, every dollar that I spent on that Bungie store, I felt like it was given back to the hundreds, thousands of hours that I have played on that game. Okay? Comparatively, the amount of time that I play on that game to the amount that I have spent, I think it's pennies on the dollar. With Anthem, it just feels...
If it was a lower currency, you'd use that.
With Anthem, it just feels like dollars on the minutes, which is different, okay? It's 800... Okay, let's put it this way. It's about $8 for one wrap, okay? Unlike the ones that you got at Subway, which is actually all $6.99, but I digress.
So have one of those right now. One of those
Stop reminding Goose of food.
A tuna burrito.
Tuna
Subway
burrito.
wrap. Is that
But
what you
it's
want,
$8.
Goose?
I mean, think about it. I mean,
So
we have
good.
Gustavo over here who's fasting himself. With $8, he could go get himself a nice burger, okay? Or get himself a little wrap that he can play on the video game and just watch it. Okay? If you would have said $5, I would have said, okay, I can take that. Okay? $4.99, I can take that. $8, and given the fact that I had to spend $20 to be able to even use, that's not for me. Sorry.
I spent $20 on a sparrow in Destiny.
That's because
Yes, you
you're a
did.
knucklehead. Okay?
Yes, you did. Yeah, and we all told you not to. So,
Exactly.
But I
probably
did
got-
that because I wanted to show off to all my friends that I look badass with that sparrow.
And then
Okay.
I spent
and you
$2.
you did
and
for
I
the
got
whole
it.
5 minutes you wrote on it.
There's a joke. There's a joke that comes after that, but because we're on the radio, I can't.
It's funny, when he was spending so much cash to get that sparrow on Destiny, and then he's like, "Guys, come here, look at my new sparrow," and I already had it, but I had it for free because I ended up getting it from the engrams that Destiny provides you. Hey, Anthem, you could do that. He's like, "Marlon, what are you doing?" And I just rode off with my blazing sparrow. He's like, "I hate you so much right now."
Yeah, I just think that, honestly, here's the thing is Anthem devs need to get a little bit of a clue. And, they need to do their research on these other games and what they're doing. Because, you know what? Destiny's been doing it longer than anybody else with this type of genre. And they're doing it right at this point. I'm not 100% satisfied with everything that I get when I'm playing Destiny. But here's the thing is there is a way for me to acquire everything that I want to acquire. And if I want to spend money to get things early, I can. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But Destiny's gotten plenty of my money on other things, man. They got my money on merch. They got my money on, upgraded types of game. They've got my money on, freaking pop vinyl bobbleheads and whatever else. I mean, they've got but there's none of that stuff coming with the Anthem because Anthem can't expand to those things right now because there's not enough player base that's running around trying to grab up all those other things. Here's the thing: is like I looked on my, you go in there and you've got everybody that you're connected to, that's playing the game, and if they do well for the week, like you get coins from it. I had 3 people out of everybody that we play games with. I've got 3 people that I'm earning coins off of in Anthem. So that was
welcome.
Aggravating. Yeah.
So there's games that I will spend money on, like microtransactions, and I hope the devs aren't listening to this because they will put in more microtransactions because I open my mouth. But Destiny is definitely a game I will, buy things microtransactions. Anthem potentially is one of those games, which I did. I think I bought like a $5 pack, but after that was like week 1 or whatever it was. Anthem's a game I will definitely never ever put a penny on. Horrible game, terrible experience. PlanetSide 2. Oh my goodness, that was such a terrible game, man.
Well,
and I don't understand.
I think it depends on who you ask about that one.
Exactly.
It does depend if you ask about that one.
Some of our close friends
they swore by that.
Very big fans of that one.
Jacob and Logan. Yeah, that was man.
Hey, but that's the free to play games though for you. I mean,
but this isn't free to play, so there needs to be some more for us to get in game, right?
Oh, I agree completely.
But
then the game has a lack of content. They're too worried about fixing bugs and stuff like that right now. I think that the content, I believe the content will come.
Those are free games, and people spend. If I got into it in a battle royale, that's a game I would probably be willing to spend money on. But I'm not into battle royale. That's the thing.
I think Andrew hit the nail on the head when he's saying, "Hey, listen, they're too focused on fixing what's broken, to really be focused on creating content." It really reminds me of sort of like the Division and Division 2, where like by the end of the Division, they really knew what they wanted to do. And like the game was fleshed out enough in terms of technicality where they're like, hey, we've already built the platform. Now we can just start creating content. In Division 2, although I haven't played it, you guys can speak to it, but it's just all content because they're like, we don't have to worry about setting the tracks, right? The tracks are already there. We just need to have this train to start rolling and going, and that's it. Right. Yeah. But that's the problem with Anthem. They gotta set the tracks. And I think that we as, I don't want to say reviewers of the game, but as fans of the game and people who cover it and do a weekly show on it, and I'll be the first one to point myself out because it's so hard not to do it. But I think we got to start looking at it. And it's hard because we were trained from the beginning to think of it. I mean, the games press, they were calling it the Destiny killer. And that's what I envisioned. I got tired of Destiny. I said, it's fun. It's great. I hear you guys to my friends, but I'm just like, I don't want to play this anymore, man. I want a different game that I can do the same things that I did in Destiny, but I want to be in a different world. I just don't want any more Destiny. And I thought Anthem was going to be that. And it certainly wasn't that. And I think that going forward, I can't speak for anybody else, but I can speak for me. I should try my best to look at it through a prism that isn't through Destiny, as hard as that's going to be, right? Because every time that there's a failure, I just look at it and say, why didn't you do what Bungie did? Or why didn't you do what Massive did in the Division 2? Because those are its 2 closest competitors, or Warframe, for example. And I think it's always going to run up against that wall where it's going to be compared against its contemporaries because of the looter shooter space that it inhabits. And it's difficult not to do so. It's hard.
Well, I think they're still in the process of, as you said it, setting the tracks.
Yeah.
They're moving us in the right direction, which is a good thing. I'm not going to say it's a bad thing. I mean, honestly, I asked for it. I specifically said to them, I would prefer you delay some content if you could just get this game fixed.
And they all got in a conference room and said, you know what, this KJ guy,
this guy has got something.
We should hire him now for our looter job, you know?
No, but I mean, I can't complain personally because I specifically brought that up. I was more or less talking more to them fixing the loot tables and everything like that. But I think they've got to. I think I've got to believe that they've got a plan for that if they're out there actively searching out people that had involvement on other games with loot. So there's obviously there's things that they're still putting a lot of effort on. We also know from previous conversations that they've got the actors back at the booth. So there's definitely more content that they're working on. It's just they're not at a point where they're able to release it in a fashion where we're not going to tear it apart. That's what it comes down to. I mean, I'm not 100%, all in on this new Stronghold that they did put together, and the thing's gorgeous. I feel like it was a little bit recycled, and, so, okay, we're not supposed to compare it to Destiny, but here's the thing, right? When Destiny comes out with a new raid, right, there's always a world's first. There's a group, there's a team, there's somebody that has to build a strategy to be able to make it through. When I played that Stronghold last night, I didn't need communication with the other three guys I was playing with.
That's because the Stronghold's almost like a strike. I mean,
it's not really.
I mean, imagine.
It's not a fair comparison.
I'm gonna say, imagine Destiny come out with only 3 strikes at the beginning, and then 9 weeks later come out with a 4th strike. There's no PvP, no raid, none of that. I mean, how many people would have stuck around with Destiny? Be honest.
Not a lot.
Probably not many. I mean, that's kind of the situation Anthem's in.
But do you remember like that? There's that moment of Destiny 2 in the Black Armory. Remember they're trying to unlock the fourth forge, and everybody was banded together watching the major players, trying to unlock it. They're going through those tiers. It wasn't even a raid. It was just
a puzzle. It was a puzzle. And the community was trying so hard.
Well,
everybody came together. And Anthem needs something like that.
That's what the Cataclysm needs to be. But there also needs to be a end game content material, like a raid or something to that extent.
I'll tell you right now, man. Division 2 is scaring me right now because they already pushed back their raid, I think, twice already. Right, KJ? Like, twice. They put now I'm like, oh man, I just did all this grinding. Division was like the most promising thing right now.
But it's there. It's coming. It's gonna come. It's gonna pay off. It's there.
Coming.
It's a different.
How many times are they push? How many times?
But the difference is that Anthem doesn't have that. Like you can be nervous about it, but at the end of the day, you can exhale and say, I know it's coming. It's gonna come, and I'm gonna enjoy it. But see, folks on the Anthems. Exactly. We don't even know. So there is no, oh my God, it's going to come and it's going to be awesome. It's just, what is it?
Yeah, we don't even know what it is. That's the problem. Is that nobody knows what it is.
I'll kind of going back. Bring up KJ. The thing with the world's first. Here's something that for me I would love that would BioWare and Anthem would copy from Destiny. Is the exclusive loot that you can get if you complete a high-end activity, like the jackets, the t-shirts, the actual physical loot that.
Yeah, but they have to have a high-end activity for us to do it.
When the Cataclysm comes in, I would love for them to say, hey, listen, you completed this thing, 24 hours when it first came out. That means you are allow a code for us to send you like a t-shirt or like a jacket to commemorate the fact that you beat it. Something that will, show that BioWare is also trying to do right by the community. Showing, hey, listen, we're trying to be more towards you guys because I know we have messed up in the past and we know that we have done wrong by you guys, but we like to, put out a olive branch, something like that. I don't want to see them going, oh, Cataclysm is here, enjoy, and it's just another much more difficult. Stronghold.
You know what would be awesome to me? It's something that would get me playing back right away, especially because what I said at the towards the middle of the show. Rejig the strongholds where you can get strike specific gear only from doing these activities.
Yep.
right? If they were to do that, if they were to have a Vidoc where they're going to say, hey, you see this weapon, Divine Vengeance 2.0 or something. I'm just making anything up. I don't know the names. Or this awesome gear set that you can only get after you complete this in Grandmaster 3. What, Marlon?
The Ganso Siete armor.
The Ganso 7 armor. Anything.
Eso Blanco.
I'd be right in there. I'd be in like Flynn, man.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that would be an easier way to pull people back in and pull it quickly. But okay,
Again, they're still trying to fix the game. They're still laying, like Goose said, they're still laying the tracks. I mean, all of that. A lot of that stuff I feel like will come later, to be honest with you.
I mean, even if I beat something, I get a T-shirt from Anthem or a jacket saying like, world's first Anthem.
Like my attitude.
Look at that guy.
Anthem. My philosophy going forward is, and the listeners may not like this, but I'm going to be honest. If there's one thing that I am is that I'm many things, but I am that too. I'm going to shelf the game, right? I personally. I have absolutely no reason really to go back to it. It's not a nice thing to say, especially because I'm part of a show that covers this game. But I actually like going in every week not knowing anything about the game and being informed by you guys who actually do play it as opposed to me. I have no problem shelving it. And when you guys come back to me and say, hey, Goose, you have to play this. Like I remember Forsaken. Every single one of the guys were like, dude, this is it. This is when you have to come back. You've been out of it for a long time, but this is the reason why you're going to have to come back. Right? And they were right. I mean, it didn't pull me in the way I thought it was, but they were absolutely right. This is why I had to come back. Forsaken was it. And I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for a reason to come back. So just let them plug away, let them work hard, let them do what they need to do to get the game up to snuff. And I'll be there. I'll be waiting. But until then, I'm just like, nah, I'm good. I'm just sitting on the sidelines.
And with that, we're going to move into a new segment called 5 Things We're Obsessed With. And we're going to go round table on here, and everybody's going to name off something that they're obsessed with right now that's not Anthem, so that we can kind of just release and give a little bit of who we are, the people that, what we like, other than just this one game that we, talk about week after week after week. Give you a little bit more insight on who we are. We did have that one show. Goose, unfortunately, was hiding in a safe space at that point and couldn't be involved with the rest of us that week, where we kind of talked a little bit more about ourselves and some other things. But we're going to try to do every week, just bring up 5 things that we're obsessed with. So Justin, why don't you kick us off? What are you obsessed with this week, my friend?
So I have quite a bit of a little story, actually. I love anime. I was about to say Anthem. Anime. I love anime. I love watching it. I love reading it. Everything. Yada yada yada. My coworker and I, we're watching My Hero Academia. It's his first time watching the series, so we're already on season 3, part 1. All Might's fighting All for One. So great thing. So at work, I decided to change my background wallpaper, my screensaver. Here's the story. I changed it to one of the characters. And recently, 2 days ago, I got a brand new computer for my station because it needed to be upgraded finally. Thank God. Windows 7 to Windows 10. Whew. Anyways, so I upgraded. So one of the things I had to do at work, I had to do this bomb indented, which is like pulling up the file for the bomb materials. And it wasn't working. It kept on crashing, kept on kicking me out. So I called the help desk, and the help desk is in Savannah. And I was like, hey, I'm having this trouble, blah, blah, blah. Help me out. And she's like, no problem. She sounded cute on the phone. And she's like,
he's obsessed with the girl.
Right? So she's like, can I take over your computer? I want to see what's going on. I'm like, yeah, sure. So I give her my computer name, and I see her take over. I have 3 computer screens.
Please do not click the incognito tab.
Right? 2 of them are being utilized. The other one has the background. So she moves the screen over to the one with the background. And then we're going over my issue. And then she's like, that looks so familiar. What wallpaper do you have right there? And I was kind of embarrassed. I was kind of like,
I'm an anime nerd.
Yeah, I'm an anime nerd.
That was a great voice. That was a great voice.
I was like, it's just this anime that I like. And then I swear to you, she's like, is that Dobby from My Hero Academia? And I was like, yes, it is. Oh my God, yes. She's like, oh my God, are you excited for the new season? And I'm like, yeah, in October. She's like, oh my God. And I was like, ah. And we're just like screaming over the phone with each other. Complete rando.
And then his dreams were dashed when she said it. I can't wait to watch it with my boyfriend this weekend.
Going for the jugular. Oh God.
So at the end, she's like,
Don't you hate that?
Justin's like, you like the game Anthem? I do a podcast.
And I was like, okay, your services is done. And then I'm like, okay, cool. So she's like, I'll just email you the ticket number and you'll have that on your record. I'm like, great, fantastic. She's gonna email me. I'm gonna have her name. I'm gonna have her email. I'll hit her up later in October. Like, hey, remember we were talking about fucking oh damn, I just cussed. We were talking about My Hero Academia, and then she sent the email, but it was a generic code email. So it wasn't her actual email. I was so upset. So I love anime. I love it.
Well, so you got a girlfriend named Help Desk. That's great.
Yeah,
that's wonderful.
Anime got me a significant other across the United States right now.
So that's Justin's one thing that he's obsessed with. Andrew, what are you obsessed with this week, my friend?
Well, this week and for the last couple of weeks, mainly music from the upcoming festival I'm going to. So at the beginning of May, I'm not sure how many people know about it, but there's a thing called Memphis in May, like a 3-day music thing. And so I've been pretty obsessed with just listening to all the different artists and all their songs and whatnot.
What are some of the bands?
Oh man,
Killers are gonna be there, dude. I just looked it up.
You have Killers. You have Cardi B, Khaled, One Republic,
Little
G-Eazy,
Dicky.
I think. Little Dicky is one of them.
Oh.
Do we have to timestamp that?
No.
Little Dickie's okay. We can talk about it.
Hey, that's a name.
The nickname for Robert.
Oh, is that what that is?
But yeah. So
What is this festival called?
Memphis in May.
Memphis in May.
I feel so
He's
stupid.
already
'cause
looking it up. Wow.
I'm really.
I'm looking at the
Justin's
lineup
flying
of
across the
performers.
country.
I'm looking at the lineup of performers, and I only recognize the Killers, Cardi B, One Republic, Dave Matthews. I don't recognize anybody else. I feel stupid.
Oh, I could.
NDRE.
Man, I've been listening to Dave Matthews since before anybody knew who he was.
Dude, Church is gonna be there too. I like Church's music.
Big boy.
I could do some Dave Matthews. That's one of my bands, man. I've been listening to Dave Matthews before all you boys were born. So.
Hey.
Oh my gosh! All right, Marlon, what are you obsessed with this week, my friend?
Well, actually, if kind of funny, since Justin was talking about anime, well, it's this week I've been just listening to like old 80s Japanese pop songs. So Tatsuro Yamashita, Mirai Takeuchi, Yuichi Otaki, like that old pop, like synthwave retro stuff.
None of us have ever.
Yeah, we don't even know what you're talking about, man.
It is so.
You're beyond an anime nerd. You're like just straight up Japanese 80s pop
I
nerd.
wouldn't. And the thing is this though, the songs are so catchy and just melodic that
Those synthesizers are what led to modern day EDM for all those EDM fans, by the way. So know your history.
So the fact that you go back and listen to those things, like it just feels like one of those songs that makes you just enjoy yourself and relax and just have fun. It's I guess you could say I've been into lo-fi, hip hop and stuff like that, just to relax and study. But yeah, I just been enjoying the hell out of that.
Yeah, and just the EDM hit was on Justin, just so everybody knows, because if anybody has not seen Justin doing his chicken dance.
Oh
EDM.
no, I can't even find. How do you find that video?
We have our sources.
We have our.
I love
we have
listen.
our
I like
sources.
EDM too. Justin put me onto EDM. I love EDM too, man.
That's right.
I was into EDM before both you guys were probably born too, but that's all right.
He was listening to Giorgio Moroder and shit.
It's funny. It reminded me of that. I thought when we're bashing Justin about not knowing anything about pop culture, it was one time we were talking about the EDM history, and Justin got really mad. It's like, just because I don't know the whole history behind it doesn't mean I cannot like it. Okay, so back off. He was so mad for like the next week and a half of that.
I was really upset. I was like, wow. I was like, okay, so apparently I'm not allowed to like EDM anymore because I don't know the history of the '90s and before when.
You should know a little bit of it, but it's like, oh, I like EDM.
He just likes listening to it, man. That's it. Goose,
And
what are you
dance
obsessed with this week, bro?
So this is kind of super nerdy, but I've really, really been obsessed lately with cultural paganism in the 16th century. Especially John Tolan, who...
This is when we cut off the podcast.
No, this is a lie.
Yeah, please. Just
Cultural
Strong glue,
paganism.
strong together.
Listen, I know that you like Game of
16th
Thrones, but there's a
century. I love
difference,
it.
okay?
It's a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie. I just made this up.
Paganism.
I've been obsessed with. This is a big one. I really don't want to bring it up because I feel like it's going to open a different can of worms. But over the past 2 weeks, me and my boss have been going back and forth on Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God. Oh, man. Please.
I'm
talk
not
it,
even
please. I
I'm
wanna
not
hear
even
that.
have this discussion, bro, because I'm not going there, man. I'm not.
Oh, come on.
I
feel
put
like
it after I spoke with him
is
last week.
It's right there, and you're just taunting me.
Marlon noticed it last week. I ranted I think it was early. I ranted super early on some Star Wars stuff. I wrote this whole big rant after me and my boss had a conversation. I looked at it. I was like, this is like a bug. I'm like, I'm erasing this crap. I'm just taking it out. But yeah, we've been musing about what it may or may not mean. He's of the belief that, and it's kind of funny because I'm of the belief that I don't want Rey, and you guys know how I feel about this. I don't want Rey to be a Skywalker. I totally love that big FU by Rian Johnson to all of us Star Wars fans. But my boss is of the belief that the Rise of Skywalker means that Kylo Ren will somehow have a redemption arc. And he somehow managed to turn me against my own belief of Rey being a Skywalker, because I'm of the belief that there is no redemption for Kylo. You don't come back from what he did in Episode 7. So he has sort of turned me against myself, and I'm basically saying I'd rather Rey be a Skywalker than Kylo be redeemed.
I think Kylo is going to be redeemed.
And it's just because I'm just based on the facts as it is now, like he's the only true Skywalker heir, right? Unless there is another one, which I hope it isn't Rey. So that's the thinking that my boss has. He's like, hey, listen, they're not going to screw over Johnson, right? They're going to keep that.
No,
the Rise is going to.
I think they're going to screw over Johnson completely.
I think so he thinks that the Rise is going to be of Kylo, and I'm like, there's no coming back from patricide. I'm tired of these dumb arcs of redemption. And then we got into the bigger ordeal because I'm a big Vader fan. So he applied that and he said, well, if there's no redemption for Kylo, then there's no redemption for Vader. And I agreed, right? Because Vader did so many god awful things, after Order 66, right? He did all these. He hunted down the Jedi. He basically,
right.
he took over. So they're really
Apprentice.
Exactly, Secret Apprentice, which I wish it was canon. So even though he did kill the Emperor, there's no redemption for Vader or anybody in the dark side. But we'll see.
Wait a minute.
No. I'm telling you, I
canon?
What? No, Starkiller, yeah, that's
Force
not
Unleashed
canon.
isn't canon. No, it's not. No, they totally ripped that all out when Disney took over, man. It's gone.
Yeah, that's why they called
Expanded
Starkiller
universe
base.
is gone.
Yeah.
Nothing about the expanded
thing
universe remains canon anymore, which is, for me, it's like the biggest middle finger to the fans out there. I'm sorry. We had
They've slowly
so
brought
many
some
good
of it.
stories, man.
They brought some of it back.
Brought some of it back, but they're bringing it back in new stories, and they've been
Thrawn
altering
and stuff like
it.
that. Yeah.
Oh,
That's such a shame.
But I agree.
They paid an homage to him in Episode 7 with Starkiller Base, by the way.
So here's the thing. This is, I don't know if you want me to say spoiler alert. This is my own personal thoughts, but this is kind of where I think Star Wars is going. I think Kylo will be redeemed. I believe that Palpatine is going to come back. Palpatine. Yep, he's coming back. He's going to come back through some kind of object, and I have a feeling that he may either possess Kylo or Rey for some time during the course of the movie.
He's going to use the ancient teachings of Master Cypher Diaz.
That's right. That's right. So that's my thoughts. But then okay, so my obsession of the week is Game of Thrones because
got milk.
No spoilers. No spoilers. I'm barely
awesome. Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm not going to give any spoilers for the show itself, but let me just say, man, the guy's writing is just amazing to begin with. They've done really well with the show. I wasn't so happy with the show last season, but they're really, really turning it around this season. And
it's all or nothing in this one because it's the last one.
Man, well, it is the last one of this story, but they're going somewhere different with it afterwards. They're going to do kind of like a, I don't know what you want to call it, a prequel or whatever, but they're going to go back in time and do kind of before this era in Game of Thrones. But man, these last two shows have just been like watching the chessboard be set, and all of these minor story arcs are being summed up and kind of wrapped, and you're like, oh man, there's a really good chance that dude's dying, and there's a really good chance that dude's dying. I mean, it's just like crazy because it's just like, it's nothing like some of the other. They've been doing justice by the characters. One of the things that I really do like about Game of Thrones is that they don't always do justice by the characters. But I think if anybody has made it to this point in the show, that they almost have to do justice by them and give them a semi send off. And you've kind of watched that happening in these last two shows, and it's been pretty cool because although the shows themselves have not been, there hasn't been anything that's been like way too riveting where it's just like super action packed or anything like that, but it really has been really well story driven, and I've always been somebody that likes a really good story. So that's been my obsession for the week, has been Game of Thrones. So
we don't want another Lost, okay?
Yeah, please, no, that was
please. We don't want to see.
You named like five other,
and then you wake up, it's all a dream.
Yeah, five other.
As I'm trying to catch up to you guys, I'm on season 4, episode 3. Right now, Jon Snow is my favorite character, not knowing anything past this. But right now, Jon Snow, my man crush.
That's your man crush?
Just said it. It's my man crush, Jon Snow.
Yeah. My favorite character is Arya by far. She is just absolutely awesome, and you're going to see a lot of different ordeals that she goes through as she kind of continues and grows as a character. But I mean, she's so cool. I was not so excited about one of the scenes that was in this last episode with her, and I'm not going to spoil what that is, but honestly, she's just such a good character. And I've made mention of it before where like, dude, if everybody else in this show got wiped out by the end of the show and it was just Arya standing there with her little freaking sword.
The
needle. If it was just her needle at the end of it on the battlefield, I'd be 100% satisfied. I'd be fine. I'd be fine with that. I could kill everybody else off.
I just want to say this.
I know that. Don't even start with me, you. Don't even start with me. I fat finger everything on this damn phone, so don't even start.
Listen, to the viewers, you probably are not understanding this, but these guys went on a back and forth about just grammar that to me it was like the most funniest thing I ever seen in my entire life.
It's because he's from another country and he doesn't get half the grammar anyways.
What
did he say earlier in the show?
Opposite. It's the opposite.
He said
I had to learn.
He was trying to say retcon.
Retcon.
He was trying to say retcon, and he said
recon.
To his defense, I'll say this. And I love Marlon for it. But one of my coworkers, he's a very good friend of mine. You guys met him. Justin and Andrew, Daniel, right? He really is the perfect American dream story of a person immigrating here and really making themselves. But one of the things that I never really quite understood, and he really helped me understand, he was like, Castro, you have to remember that you think in English. Everything you do is in English, and it's so easy for you to speak it. He's like, now I want you to apply the same thing in Spanish, and you can't. It's harder for you because you don't think in Spanish. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. He's like, well, that's the same thing for a non-English native speaker. And I never really thought about it that way. And ever since then, I was like, yeah, it's hard for me to put certain sentences in Spanish, which is really my native language, because I just don't think that way. I know what Marlon means when he says, I have to think first in Spanish and then translate that in my head in English, and somewhere along the way I screw up. So yeah. I totally get it.
I'll tell you this. The fun thing about learning a different language is learning the grammar. Because this is the thing. When you are a person who grows up in any specific country, whether France, Germany, America or something like that, you learn the little nuances of the words, of how it's supposed to be spelled out, how it's supposed to be pronunciated and stuff like that. And you don't think about it. It is just second nature to you. Somebody who's learning that for the first time, you have to understand, now they're going from thinking it one way to changing it and morphing it into something that makes more sense. But along the way, it gets it's really bad. I remember one time to the point where, and it affects both ways. It goes both from Spanish to English and English to Spanish. I go back and I've forgotten the correct Spanish word for certain sentences in English. And I'm going, what was that word again? Oh, yeah, that's the one. And it happens in English, It's like, I was trying to say retcon, and I kept saying recon for like the past week and a half. And it's just like, it is what it is, And some people say, oh, that's just so sexy, it has an accent. I'm like, no, I don't want to have an accent. I want to be.
Listen, the girls like that. Listen, man, the women like the accent. I can tell you.
It's just horrible, man. But
it's because Goose is a little girl.
What does that make any sense, bro? All right, Inland Empire, stick to your lane, okay?
Oh my goodness! Oh wow! No, I've actually had some very interesting instances overseas in different situations. Like when we're in the military, we have all these different terms, and we'll have different anagrams and stuff like that for certain things, and one of the things that we would say a lot is like, man, that's high speed, right? But you say something like that to somebody that's not a native English speaker, or somebody that understands that's high, when you say, man, that's high speed, that you just mean that's something that's really cool, that's really interesting, whatever, that's really hot, right? Somebody from another country hears that's high speed, and they're trying to figure out what the heck you're saying. Or you say, man, that's hot. They're like, oh, I shouldn't touch it. They're like, no, it's good. It's cool. No, well, wait, you just said it was hot. Now you're saying it's cool. It's like
one of my favorite things that's on YouTube. It's like, I think it's an African gentleman, and he's learning English. It's a meme by now, right? And you see two states, right? You see Kansas and you see Arkansas, right? And he's like, how do you pronounce this? How do you pronounce this one? This is Kansas, okay? So this one is Arkansas. Okay, how you tell me Arkansas? How you tell me Arkansas? No, Arkansas.
Like, I don't know if he was German or I don't know if he was African. I think maybe he was Russian, but it's just a funniest thing. Like, for example, here's a little storyline for you. My uncle, after being here in the States for like 5-6 years, went back to Honduras to visit us. So he goes to the store in the neighborhood, and he goes,
and he was mugged.
No. It was back in the 90s, okay, where it wasn't as bad as it is now. But he goes to the store, and he goes, quiero un six-pack. And the lady's like, six-pack? No entiendo. What are you talking about? Like a six-pack. Oh, ¿cómo no entiende que es un six-pack? And then my mom tells him, just give him the beers, please. Just give him the 6-pack of beers. Like, oh, you mean this? Bro, the entire neighborhood after they find out that they call him the six-pack man. Okay. Everywhere my uncle went in that trip to Honduras, we call him, oh, that's a six-pack man. Yeah, we got a six-pack for you. Bro, like, you forget things. Like, people don't realize that that's how just language is. And I'm sure that France has this little nuances, Germany has this little nuances that somebody who's not a native speaker would go and go, what are you talking about? Like, I mean, my girlfriend, she's Norwegian, and half of the time she's like, I don't get that reference, you know? I don't get what you mean by that.
Yeah, well, it's the way slang is perceived. You know, so we speak using slang
And idioms
terms
and
all
stuff
the time, and nobody, you know, you're not native to that language, and you start, you know, getting involved in somebody speaks in something that, you know, is normal, you know, normal everyday part of their speech, but it really is slang at the end of the day that it kind of can throw a non-native speaker off for sure.
Yeah, and one of the great things about America is that, you know, we're so varied that even within our own country, there are, you know, pockets of small communities that don't even understand different slang. I think of one of our good friends, Nick, who's a trader, by the way, who I think I was upset playing Destiny or something, and I was like, man, I'm so tight right now. And he didn't understand because, like, to him, tight meant like it was cool or hip. And I was like, no, I'm upset. I'm angry. That's what tight means to me. I'm angry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like people in California that tell you that's hella. And I'm like, well, what is hella? Okay, it took me like weeks.
Yeah, it took me a while for that
what in
one.
the heck is that?
Yeah.
You know?
I'm like, what is hella? What is, yeah. And then
You go to
then
Boston, and people call things wicked. They have wicked cool
so
comics
wicked.
up there.
I'm going to the ball pack, and I'm going to pack the cat. It's going to be a great time having a hot dog or Frankfurter.
God, like,
Which reminds me, I got to send you a video, Goose. This is the guy from Jersey. It's like you.
All right. So one of the other things that we wanted to do this week was just kind of say, hey, to our fans, to our listeners, to everybody, you know, come out and play some games with us. We're online. Most of us are on PSN on fairly regular basis.
Plug the Twitter.
You know, yeah, Twitter account, Freelancer Radio on Twitter. It comes up under Freelancer RADI1. So you can come check us out there on Twitter. You can check us out on A Freelancer Radio on Instagram. There's all of our photos on Instagram of each of us individually. In those photos descriptions, we also have our PSN ID, so look us up, hit us up on PSN. We'd love to play with you guys. We actually caught up with one of the fans last night on PSN, and I just invited him to a party, and we were like, you know, hung out and talked for a few seconds. So that was pretty cool. But it was kind of neat, and hopefully, you know, we'll play some Anthem or something in the near future. But anybody have anything else that they'd like to share before we head out for the night, boys?
When are we going to finish Borderlands?
Well, we got
I caught up
When the
with I caught up
Cataclysm
with you
comes out.
guys.
Memphis
I
and
caught up
May.
with you guys. I'm up to like level 20 or whatever with where you guys were now. So
Good.
we can play whenever you're ready. Maybe this weekend.
This weekend. Let's do it.
Goose, we need to finish Gears.
I think I'm supposed to tell you that.
Oh, my bad. This is going to be our third playthrough of
Deserter.
Gears. I'm not a deserter. You left me.
It's not you, it's me.
Yeah, I'm down. KJ, you have until May 13th to claim that three month thing, dude.
I
So.
gotta go like find a controller and look through boxes.
Oh, it's so much hard work. Oh,
No,
man.
dude, come on.
Bro, it's a
It's
great
the
game.
worst.
Gears is the greatest. That's my original cover shooter. Just putting it
yeah,
out.
well, yeah, because it's a cover shooter.
Oh,
That's
please don't give him any more ideas for cover shooting on Anthem. Please, no.
If anything, so my message to you, listeners, PvP, let's go. It's Destiny 1v1. I'll take you on. I'll take you and Andrew. I'll give you Andrew.
Ooh.
Andrew just
I
laughed.
cannot believe
Oh,
you just
man.
called Andrew
Look,
out.
look.
That's just,
Bro, I haven't played Destiny in months, and I'm probably so wrecky, man. If I
Justin,
play
I
1v1.
Andrew
Let's
can
go.
play.
All right, viewers, if we get some likes, we'll have
Andrew
KJ
will
put a tweet
roll
out.
out of bed drunk, and he'll still just slay you, dude.
We'll put KJ. Well, KJ will put out a tweet, and then we'll do some polls. Who would win, Andrew versus Justin, and then we'll live stream our 1v1 match.
I say let's do
Justin,
it, man. I like that. That's a great idea.
Do you remember what happened the last time we did a 1v1?
I don't remember. I think I was drunk.
He's blocked it out, Andrew. He's blocked it out.
I suppress violent memories.
If you guys want, I'll take you guys on. I'm a good player. I got Luna's Howl on my hip. Last word right there. Boom. Hand cannon, man. Ba-ba! That's it.
Oh, look at you guys. I think it would be interesting to have you guys play with a fixed loadout with both of you guys have to carry the same weapons too.
No,
Yeah, all things being equal. That's right.
I think that would be pretty cool. All things are not equal, Goose.
Well, in terms of loadout,
Justin versus Andrew.
I'm sorry. I should have.
How is that equal?
I meant.
One of these things is not like the other.
I meant in terms of loadout. And for the listener, Andrew's not the one getting the short end of the stick here.
I'll go over there, Goose. I'll show you what a short stick is.
Do me a favor, Andrew. If you are gonna fight Justin in a 1v1 on Destiny, make sure that you get your regular PSN controller, not your SCUF controller, but your regular PSN controller. Tie your hand behind your back, and then you play him with one hand and show him that you can still beat him with one hand.
So it can truly be even.
Yes.
Let's go. I'm telling you, I'll take anybody on.
His SCUF controller. Oh, actually, no, his Xbox
I think I remember
controller.
a time I took all of you to the lighthouse at one point.
No, Justin took
Let's
me to
end
the
it like
White
that.
House.
Nope. I'm cutting this thing off right now. Thank you.
You can
viewers.
ask Goose. The first time we ever went to the lighthouse, I carried him and Lee to the White House or the lighthouse.
Carrying Lee is a very big load, so
I said the White House, but the lighthouse.
You play Division 2, Andrew. Justin will take you to the White House.
I will take you to the White House. I'll take you to the White House in Borderlands if I have to. So.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, that's it, boys. We're done. That's all the time we have for today. So let's suit up and hit the high road. Strong alone, stronger together. Freelancers,
Roll out.
I just want to say this one thing. The proper contraction for you are is not YOUR. That is all.
I know that.